Welcome to Mary Alice.
What did you do?
We are a Desperate Housewives recap podcast with me, Erin McGee.
And me, Jakub Tanzi. Two best friends breaking down each episode until we answer the ultimate question, Mary Alice, what did you do?
Unless, of course, we have finished season 1, in which case, insert new mystery here.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack on Wisteria Lane.
Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
So get comfortable and let's get into this week's episode.
I mean, we really only came up with this a few days ago.
Yes, I mean, we put so much effort and work into this. Let's not understate that.
And you just mentioned Desperate Housewives in passing in a text, and then it just really escalated very quickly.
Yes, I think in our friendship, because we have known each other 18 years, which is terrifying, this is definitely a corner piece in the jigsaw of our friendship.
100%. We met in high school, which is around the time when I watched the show for the first time. I was probably 15 when I first watched it. I know this for fact because I dug out an old photo of me watching it on a 4th gen iPod Touch in 2010 for the first time. Yeah, so what does this show mean to you, Erin?
I can confidently say this show does not mean anywhere near as much to me as it does to you. That's where I want to start. But I loved it. I think I was 9. I don't think I watched it the entire way through when I was 9.
I was going to say 9 is too young.
9 was way too young. And I think I watched a few episodes and then kind of came back to it as a teenager. Did the run through. And I remember this show being a very big part of the kind of beginnings of fandom culture as well. Fan forums and fan theories and me getting really into that aspect of it. I do remember very specifically watching the Desperate Housewives season finale with you underneath a blanket while you wept the entire time.
Yes, and our other mutual friend from school, Rory Taylor, it was the three of us.
Yes, it was a beautiful defining moment in our lives.
I don't know if you remember, but we had a whole day of it. It was our little Desperate Housewives finale party, and we played a Desperate Housewives board game, which I found in a charity shop, and I still have.
I think something that is going to definitely keep coming up is I have a horrific memory and I have zero recollection of us doing a Desperate Housewives board game.
Yeah, for me, this was such a formative TV show in my life, truly a canon event, because it was really the first TV show I ever watched that was for adults. It wasn't some teen drama set in high school or a kid's show. This was an adult show about adults, and so every plot twist, which you've seen in every other show, for me, it was my first.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Because I also remember this was my first exposure, not into the complete American experience, but to any American experience. Like it felt very, very American. And I do remember being really young and thinking, they all have guns over there? I have to bring up something that I don't think you're going to like. I remember very distinctly our higher drama exam where we had to write a play.
I was going to bring this up.
We had to write a play, which is something you should not do. You should not give 17-year-olds that kind of agency. I vividly remember your character names being characters from Desperate Housewives.
But it was like mix and match.
Yes.
So it would be like Bree Scavo.
Yes.
Or Lynette Solis. It just mix and matching the first and family names of the various characters.
So really, this podcast is a mission because you did not get a cease and desist from Mark Cherry before. But by the end of the day, we will have one.
I mean, it's good to set goals when you start a project like this, you know?
Yes. I actually have some notes about how the show was made, if that will interest you.
Absolutely. Go for it.
It was inspired by a true crime story about Andrea Yates, a housewife in Texas who drowned her 5 children while she was suffering postpartum depression. Mark Cherry, who wrote Devious Maids and Why Women Kill.
Can I just say, love Devious Maids. Gutted it was cancelled. Please continue.
I also wanted to give a quick disclaimer that here we will not be getting into any of the behind-the-scenes arguments, feuds, and the rumours. Our interests lie purely in the show, as it was, and as it translates now, which might be good and might be bad.
It's gonna be bad for a lot of it. With that, I think we can get into the recap of the pilot episode titled Pilot.
I'm so excited.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's get into it.
We start the show with the most aggressive fade in I've ever seen in my life. It literally looks like it's just come back from commercial break. It's so suddenly just on, the music's playing and it's like, oh, okay, we're in, cool.
Yes.
Nice sweeping shot of Wisteria Lane, the setting of this wonderful show. We see a school bus going by. It's just the most perfectly generic suburban American street you've ever seen in your life. And we get intro monologue voiceover from the character of Mary Alice Young in her soothing vocal just glory.
So this is part of the prep work that I did for this, because I knew I was never going to beat you on your passion for this show, but I can research. So I read the original pilot for this. I knew that would make you excited. And I also watched clips of the unaired pilot, which was made with a different Mary Alice.
I knew that. I knew there were some recastings between the unaired pilot and the broadcast pilot.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god.
The recast makes sense to me because this cadence is so iconic, and I think is one of the reasons that this show grabs you from straight away.
100%. Mary Alice's voice will guide you through this entire show. She gives a vast amount of exposition. She intros and outros every episode. It's just so core to the show. As soon as you hear that voice, you know what you're watching.
Also, she is the empress of haunting the narrative. She haunts this entire show in the most beautiful way. And I do think her voice is a big part of it. It's so tender and loving that you still feel that she has affection for these girls and wants them to be better people.
So she opens the show by describing herself. She describes what a perfectly ordinary life she has. We get a montage of her doing very ordinary housewife stereotype things, laundry, cooking for her family, etc. And with that context, she then tells us how wild it was for her one afternoon to take a gun and shoot herself in the head. And this is all in the first 2 minutes. So she's dead now.
Thank you. Yeah. We should have spoiler alert.
Yes, that happens. And we see her next door neighbor, Martha Huber, who hears the noise of the gun and she needs an excuse to go over and investigate because she's super nosy. So she digs out a blender, which she borrowed from Mary Alice 6 months prior. There's a sticker on it that says property of Mary Alice Young. And she gives up this long-term borrowing in order to go and be nosy. So she runs over. I can just say, we've just witnessed someone shoot themselves, but there is clown music playing in the background.
Yes, it's perfect though, because everything is twinkly and even the set of Wisteria Lane looks fake. It looks like a set.
It does.
I think that's so important. It's got it because everything in this first scene is trying to establish that there's this bravado. Everything looks perfect, but it isn't.
Yes, and that comes up so many times in this episode. The amount of times that the dialogue the characters give and the voiceover from Mary Alice Young is just essentially repeating, look how perfect everything looks, but it's not so perfect behind closed doors. The amount of times they hammer that home in this pilot episode is wild.
And also this theme right away of nosiness masked as compassion.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. That's going to be a repetitive theme.
Something that I love is, as well, I'm not going to say how because now I'm thinking, oh, what if somebody is watching along with us or if somebody is rewatching and doesn't remember? This blender comes back.
I'm drawing a blank.
Jakub is okay and he is dead behind the eyes, which means I am so excited for you to see how this blender comes back. The blender is a main character.
It's thrilling. I'm very excited. So she finds Mary Alice's body and runs home and calls the police, and she looks traumatized. She's just seen her next door neighbor dead. The music is a bit more somber now, and then we get more voiceover from Mary Alice, and she says this. And for a moment, Mrs. Huber stood motionless in her kitchen, grief-stricken by this senseless tragedy. But only for a moment. If there was one thing Mrs. Huber was known for, and then we see her rip off the sticker saying property of Mary Alice Young, it was to look on the bright side.
It's a perfect opening scene.
Yes, cut to the little theme song title card. That's the whole intro, and it really is just such a perfect example of the kind of cold open that we're going to get on this show again and again, which I love.
And then we get the best introduction to all of these women, I think.
Yes.
Which is Mary Alice's wake, where we hear about the women through the food that they bring.
Yes.
I have so much to say about this. I don't know about you.
I'm so excited. I mean, we've got to go through it house by house.
So Lynette brings...
Scavo.
Lynette Scavo brings fried chicken from a fast food restaurant because she doesn't have the time to cook fried chicken, which says everything you need to know about Lynette straight away. She looks haggard. We have some corporate flashbacks where she looks so happy, in complete contrast to what she looks like when we meet her.
Really climbing that business ladder.
Yes. And it sets up that she is very much a single mother in this episode. She is kind of by herself. She's taking care of, I think it's fair to say, the most annoying children on television.
Quite possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She made me worry about having kids. Age 9.
Age 9.
Oh, yeah.
You threw away the dolls at age 9.
Yes, she's wearing, first of all, she looks amazing. Apart from the fact that she's tired and haggard, the outfit is amazing.
I wanted to clock this outfit as well. It's like this big one-piece dress that's kind of like the top half is like a shirt. And it's how she's got quite a few buttons undone at the top, and then it's kind of flowing behind her. And for me, it looks like something that you'd maybe see like Cinderella's evil stepmother wearing.
Yes!
And obviously that doesn't reflect her character. She's only wearing black because she's awake, but my goodness, I just thought it was such a cool outfit. I loved it.
Yes, they have to sometimes hide how gorgeous these women are.
Yeah.
They really have to rein it in. And this is one of those moments, but she's carrying a new baby. She has her twins, and then she has the child that I always refer to as the sweet one in tow. And then we have our next housewife, which is where the music completely changes.
Yeah.
Gabrielle Solis bringing a spicy paella.
Because she's spicy.
Yes. It does feel a bit gimmicky, that moment.
It does. I feel like in the first couple episodes, there's a lot of scenes with Gabby where they're playing very Latin music in the background. And that, I'm pretty sure that very quickly stops being a thing.
Yes. And there's a lot of emphasis on the Carlos and Gabby dynamic being set up as grim. Carlos only cares what people think of them. They're speaking about money and how she looks, and it just becomes very clear straight out the gate that their relationship seems quite transactional.
Yeah. Right off the bat, he's on the way to the wake. He's like asking her to casually slip into conversation how expensive the necklace he just bought her is and stuff. And it's
yes. The thing with this rewatch is I don't know how the characters are going to age for me, which I am quite excited about. But I remember being really fond of those two, and it feels so grim in the beginning.
I mean, we definitely enter the at a hard down low point of their relationship.
Yes.
I think more than any of the other couples, their relationship goes through the most ups and downs. It's the most turbulent by far.
We see the proposal and Carlos crying. And Gabby makes a point, it's Mary Alice, saying Gabby realized he cried every time he closed a big deal.
Yeah.
I do not recall seeing Carlos cry ever again in the series. And this brings me to the first of what I think will be many things that are dropped from the pilot.
Yes.
It's interesting that the first thing we learn about him is never mentioned again.
Yeah. We also, just for some backstory, we saw Lynette was like a corporate girly. Gabrielle was a model in New York, and she always looks stunning. That's like her thing. She's fabulous. She always wears like the nicest clothes right off the runway, etc. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of fashion ins with Gabrielle.
Yes, and I think the contrast is really interesting. So we have Lynette. She feels the most realist in the pilot. I feel like everyone has met someone like Lynette.
Yes.
And then the contrast of Gabby, where it feels very superficial and very twinkly. But obviously we know that there's more to it underneath. And then we get Brie.
Oh my goodness.
Brie Vandekamp.
Arguably one of the most interesting characters of this whole show.
This pilot in particular, I forgot how well they set up Brie. She brings 2 baskets of muffins that she made from scratch.
And you best believe she's going to want those baskets back.
She wants those baskets back. First of all, the opening shot where he opens the door, I need to get a screen capture of it, is so menacing.
The door to the wake being opened, and she's standing there with her family, and she has like the most picture perfect, huge smile on her face, looking glowing, and then her family are standing behind her looking absolutely miserable.
And this brings me to my first, I guess, big observation, which is Brie is in a different show than everybody else.
Oh my God, that's so accurate. That's such a good way to describe it.
We have this overly prim and kind of fake compassion. And wanting the baskets back is such a beautiful detail. It really tells you how detached she is from the acts that she is doing.
Yeah.
What I thought about when I was watching this, though, was we haven't seen the girls' dynamic yet, but all of these women are grieving. at this wake, including Bree. And I just think that's something interesting because we do not get any sense of that whatsoever from her introduction that she is grieving Mary Alice.
Yeah, I mean, I think through this whole episode, we get, especially later in the episode, we get a strong sense that she's always putting on a brave face in front of everything, and she's very out of touch with her own emotions, definitely, and pushes them deep down. I also have something that was abandoned from the pilot, from the Bree introduction.
Excellent.
So when we get her introduction with the monologue voiceover from Mary Alice, we get a montage of all the things that she's known for. And it's an extensive list of things. You know, she's known for her cooking. She's known for making her own clothes.
Yes.
I don't believe we ever see her make her own clothes, and I do not believe that any of the clothes she wears going forward she has made herself.
Absolutely not.
She's also known for her gardening and reupholstering her own furniture, ... Really just clear, like, superhero level caricature of a housewife.
Yes.
It is so intensely perfectionist vibes.
It's so interesting. And again, I think they give us the contrast of Lynette and Gabby, and then they give us another big contrast of Bree and Susan. So Susan brings her famous mac and cheese. She is a single mother with her daughter Julie, who in the pilot is called Jenna. Why they changed that, I have no idea.
Is it mentioned in the broadcast pilot, Jenna?
Jenna, multiple times. Her name is Jenna.
I absolutely didn't clock that rewatching this.
But it's not broadcast.
Oh, okay.
This is in the script.
Right, okay.
Oh.
And that's what I was asking. Is it mentioned, like, in the pilot that we watched?
Oh, yes. No, I heard your question, but I chose to answer the question that I wanted. So Susan is trying to do the right thing, and she's trying to be a mature mom, and she's trying to kind of do it all post-divorce from her husband, Carl. And then we have a beautiful exchange of Julie saying, like, you know, Dad's mom, who's a bit of a bitch. And she says, I don't like that word, Julie. But yeah, that's a great example.
I love that little interaction. That was as a contender of quote of the week for me initially.
Yes.
It's not my quote of the week, but it's a great moment.
I'm so excited for what your quote of the week will be. I wonder if it's going to be the same one, but I don't think it is. I really don't.
Find out. We do see a bit of a flashback of Susan and her ex-husband Carl before he left after cheating on her. I mean, I think it just becomes very clear from the first episode that a lot of her story and identity revolves around men and the trauma that she has from that relationship. It also really clearly sets up the dynamic of Julie, the daughter, really being the grown-up and being the one picking up the pieces after her mom. Even in the flashback, you see like Susan crying when Carl left and Julie's like patting her on the back. And it's like, you know, maybe the kid should be upset as well. It should be allowed to be upset in this moment.
And that's something that we come back to. But again, it doesn't feel as strong here. I think they're quite playful with it in the pilot.
Yeah.
And then I'm so excited. We get the first scene of all the girls together.
We get a shot of all the four main characters sitting at a table in the middle of the wake together. And as Susan comes over to join them, there's a flashback to the girls at that same table with Mary Alice Young still there, pouring them all a coffee at the time that Susan tells them that Carl cheated on her. And it's very clear right from the get-go that they are a very close-knit group of friends. They're very sweet. They're very supportive of Susan. And this is the point where Bree mentions that she is in fact a gun owner because she likes that her husband to know when he's away at medical conferences that she has a gun at home. And it's very clear that she is a very hard Republican, which was funny at the time, but with today's context, I'm like, huh.
My first instinct on all of this, again, when I was younger, is first of all, what's a Republican?
Yeah, truly. I mean, at age of 9, you're not going to clock that necessarily.
I think even at 12, 13, it didn't really have any understanding of the political affiliations of the housewives.
No, that's true.
I think in TV shows it's more obvious now. In fandom culture, we'll talk about, you know, this person is the type of person that would vote for this person. And it's become more important, whereas it's kind of played for laughs here, which is very interesting. It's 2004. It's a different time.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, nothing was as divisive back then as it was now, so it wasn't as big a deal.
One of my favorite things about this scene, apart from seeing that Mary Alice is very much the glue of these friends, which I think is interesting. She is the one that is asking the questions. She's also heartbreakingly the only one who doesn't tell a joke. That was something that I noticed. They're all reacting very much like themselves. We're really getting a sense of who they are. Lynette's sarcastic, Gabby's funny in a kind of flamboyant, borderline obnoxious kind of way. Brie bringing up that she's a member of the NRA. But there's this undertone, and we get the beautiful line, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And what do most women lead? Lives of noisy fulfillment? When we come back to it, from that flashback to this empty chair at the table of both the girls, Lynette says her life was our life. And it's such a beautiful, clever way of showing how much the girls are feeling her absence.
Yeah.
And also showing that this suicide could have happened to any of them, really. It's just really nicely done. And then, crucially, suspicious Paul Young is suspicious.
Yes, there is a pan over from the table of the women having their chit chat to Paul Young, who is the husband of Mary Alice, and he is in the middle of this wait, kind of almost like peeking around the corner comically, just like listening in on these women's conversation, and the music accompanies the sus vibe and turns very like dark and like, oh, what's going on here? And it's our first very clear hint that Paul's up to something.
He's up to something.
We see Susan trying to stop someone from eating the mac and cheese she brought. This character is Mike. He's a new neighbor. He's a plumber. And insert flirtatious vibes here because they immediately start flirting. Immediately.
This meet cute is delicious. That was an accidental pun because they're eating mac and cheese, but their chemistry is incredible straight out of the gate, I would say. And it feels very high school, which is quite exciting. Like, it feels like very young.
I think that suits Susan's character because she does come across quite immature at times. And like I said, it's like her daughter is the parent in the situation a lot of the time and stuff. So I think that really fits that it's almost like a high school romance situation.
You don't really get a sense in this scene of who Mike is at all.
Not at all. No, he's just the new neighbor, the hot new neighbor. He's just there.
Yes. And he's a little bit sheepish, which makes him quite charming. And then we get one of the most incredible scenes for me is the shot of the episode, which is Lynette's children are playing in the pool. They have brought their swimsuits.
Because they were wearing them underneath their horrible clothes.
Which is such a beautiful detail because it means that Lynette did not notice them getting ready. She has the baby in her arms. The children refuse to get out of the pool. And also, crucially, nobody is helping her.
Yeah, they're all just looking and it's very uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable for everyone. And she gets into that pool in the full outfit, in the heels.
Yes.
And if you look closely, you can see Susan in the background just quietly shaking her head, looking a bit nervous.
Also, Lynette's amazing outfit that she's wearing works well here because the flowy dress part of her outfit's like floating behind her in the pool and stuff. And it just adds to the drama of it all.
Also, it's mortifying. I was once embarrassed by my niece when I think she was about 6 or 7 and she's 19 now. And I still think about it every time I look at her. Public embarrassment and public shame. And again, setting up Lynette is she's all by herself. Nobody's helping her. She's a single mother here. I realize that we're about to meet Tom later on. But in terms of how she's living her life at the moment, she is the sole parent and she is not doing well. She's not having a very nice time. And then the dun-dun-dun of the Paul shot. Lynette, after she gets out of the pool, she's very sweet and she says to Paul, thank you so much for having me. We're going to go. And then Paul looks into the pool and it's just the pool shimmer filter over his face.
POV under the pool, looking up at Paul. And I'm pretty sure there's something Mary Alice says about what lies beneath the surface that goes along with that, or is that later?
Well, either way, that gets very literal.
No, I think because I've wrote in my notes, I'm quoting my notes now.
Yes.
Mary Alice coming in with more susness confirmation. So she definitely said something in the voiceover there to confirm, yep, this is suspicious. And so now we go to the next morning. We get a little montage of the women's mornings. It's very stereotypical stuff. Lynette's having chaos at breakfast with the kids. Bree's cleaning a toilet. Gabby's doing yoga and chilling. And then we move into individual scenes for all the women where we get a sense of their home lives outside of kind of the public eye and perception of the neighbors and stuff. And we start with Susan.
Julie going to Mike's door and finding out all of this incredible in-depth information about him. So she comes in and she's saying his wife died a year ago. We never hear about this woman ever again. And we have the first and only shot, I believe, of Mike's dog, who again...
No, the dog comes back.
Does he?
The dog absolutely comes back. There's this very specific scene I'm thinking of.
Oh, well then that is, I'm so sorry, Mark.
You should be sorry.
Yeah.
Julie, yeah, so she kicked her soccer ball intentionally over Mike's fence as an excuse to get that info, and then she goes home and gives that info to Susan, as he said, and then there's this fantastic quote, which again is not my quote of the week, but it's up there, where she's trying to essentially wingwoman Susan and convince her to go and ask Mike out, and Susan's making excuses, and then Julie says, "Come on, how long has it been since you've had sex?" And then Susan does this dramatic turn to her, and Julie asks, "Are you mad that I asked that?" And Susan responds with, "Nope, I'm just trying to remember."
Yes.
And oh my god, every rewatch that will crack me up.
It's so good because the actress who plays Julie is adorable. And she really sells this kind of, I'm enjoying this friendship dynamic that I have with my mom, and I'm enjoying being her best friend. And yes, there is no question that's too inappropriate, really. But it feels really natural to me, their dynamic as well.
Yeah, so then she does eventually convince Susan to go over, so she takes a random plant from her home to give Mike as a housewarming gift, knocks on Mike's door, starts chatting to him in her bumbly sort of way without getting to the point of asking him out. And then enter Edie Britt, one of my favorite characters on this show.
The people's princess. It's fair to say.
Incredible.
And the slow-mo of her breasts moving up and down as she jogs to the door, and she's wearing this beautiful top that when she bounces, you're getting the occasional peek at how beautifully flat her stomach is.
Oh my god, yeah.
And just the way that you're seeing all of her body, and where we also see some flashbacks of Edie's conquest, which includes an affair with a priest.
Yes. And the quote from Mary Alice on that one was, "Her conquests were numerous, varied, and legendary." And that was the priest job.
And then we got, I would say this is my honorable mention for quote of the week. This was very tough. But
this is my quote of the week. I think what you're about to say is my quote of the week.
That makes me so happy.
Go for it.
It is, Susan had met the enemy, and she was a slut.
It's so like just blunt, and it really sets up their rivalry, which I love. And oh my god, it's so funny. That is 100% my quote of the week. I love it.
That's one of the moments really where you feel that nobody else could have been Mary Alice, because that delivery is so gentle and scathing at the same.
Yes. And I also like the detail that when Edie comes over, she's bringing a home-cooked dish, some elaborate meal to give to Mike as a little gift. And that's just funny because it's like something that Susan really can't do, which is cooking.
Can we talk about what the meal is?
I forgot what it was, but I'm sure you've noted it down there.
I have. Edie brings sausage puttanesca, which loosely translated means in the style of the whore. So the story behind puttanesca is that it was made by sex workers in Italy to lure customers with its aroma. Also, the sausage is obviously a phallic thing as well.
Yes. Oh my god.
But so it could not be a more perfect introduction for her. In the original pilot script, the girls have a conversation about this, and Brie reveals that she's the one, she apologizes for giving Edie the recipe.
Oh my god, did not clock any of that. So thank you so much for bringing that to my
Yes.
attention.
I'm so sad they cut that scene out because, yes, Brie apologizes for giving Edie the recipe, and Gabby, in return, says, "Don't worry, how could you have known she'd use it for evil?"
Oh my god, phenomenal. Just, Edie can do no wrong. I mean, she absolutely does wrong, but I just love her so much. Everything to do with her cracks me up.
I really am intrigued by how she's aged, because I think a lot of her more outrageous behaviors we're probably not going to see as outrageous, and also just because who you and I are as people.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you get a very strong sense of who she is in her very sexual nature. Even when she's like saying bye to Mike after dropping off the dish, she's makes some sexual innuendo about having him come over to unclog my pipes. Yeah, it's delightful. Immediately setting up the rivalry with Susan and Edie. It's so clear what's going on. This season, these two ladies, they're going for this man.
It would be very difficult after this scene to be Team Edie.
Yeah.
They're kind of setting her up as the baddie, or she's the Team Jakub. She is. They've set up the main love triangle of the show, and she's not getting him. We get the sense that, you know, there might be bumps along the way, but Susan and Mike are where we're headed.
I mean, us now looking back, that's clear, but me as a 15-year-old watching it for the first time with no knowledge of any kind of TV structure, I don't know what's going to happen.
It's true. And the best part is I don't remember all this going to happen, so I really don't know what's going to happen.
Fantastic. Okay.
The next scene is difficult for me. Gabby is trying to tell Carlos that she does not want to go out with his business partner because the business partner wants to grab her ass. And Carlos' response is that basically she should let him.
Yeah.
And it's grim. It is awful. And Carlos is treating the staff poorly. At this point, there is not a single likable quality about Carlos that we are seeing. And I think that's fair. I believe that the writers are trying to make the audience still like Gabby and root for Gabby and give us an idea of why she is having an affair.
Which we're about to come to, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I really should have done an affair.
Yeah. But I don't think any of the husbands are painted in a good light in this episode, which makes sense, I guess. You know, they want you to root for the main characters.
We then see... Oh, it's so weird. I feel so uncomfortable.
We gotta address the teenager in the room, Erin.
We have to address the teenager in the room. So basically, Carlos is out in the garden. John, their young gardener, is out too. He cuts his finger. Gabby very sexily says that there's plasters in the kitchen. And then we see her kiss his finger. We realize that these two are having an affair with each other. I believe in age gap romances, which happened a lot on television when we were young. One of the ways they normalized this for people was by having the actors be close in age so that we weren't horrified and it wasn't as obvious how young these people were.
In a recent interview with Eva Longoria, she was saying that the original actor for John before the broadcast pilot was a guy who looked a lot younger, and it was weird and it was bad vibes. Probably because it's bad.
Yes.
But for that reason, they recast John to be Jesse. I forgot his surname.
Is it Metcalf?
Metcalf, yeah, that was it. And so yeah, he was like 24, 25 playing 16 and she was 27, 28 playing 40.
We all know this, but it is harmful to show adult bodies mimicking young bodies being sexual.
Yeah.
Because those are grown bodies.
Yeah.
And we see that. And it's also uncomfortable that they have chemistry together. But why wouldn't they? Because they are both in their late 20s as actors and they are both very attractive looking people. The other thing I want to say with this scene is, so Gabby is seducing him by saying, you know, this table is $15,000, la, la, la. And they start to sleep together on the table in broad daylight. While we're seeing people walk past outside, this woman is begging to be caught.
Yeah, they got big windows too.
Big windows. We know how, it's already been set up how nosy these neighbors are. Mm-hmm. This feels like a cry for help. It is incredibly inappropriate, this relationship existing in the first place. But if we're going to talk about the purpose behind it, it's very much played as she's so unhappy in her marriage that she has turned to somebody else for comfort.
Yeah, there's actually even a scene after they've hooked up where John is asking Gabby why she's still with Carlos, if she's miserable and why she's having this affair and stuff. And she says, because I don't want to wake up one morning with a sudden urge to blow my brains out. And that's really a peek into her motivations here, I guess.
Yes, I know we're going slightly out of order here.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about that again because you're right. And I think their tenderness in that scene is really interesting. And it's not coming from her. She clearly sees this as very transactional. He is very tender towards her.
Yeah.
Because he is being groomed.
Yes, because he is a child.
And he doesn't have an emotional understanding for this affair because he's not equipped to be dealing with something this mature. And it's an interesting conversation that she's admitting that Carlos has given her everything that she wanted, but it isn't enough. And it should be beautiful, but it's completely tarred now by the fact of, yes, but that's not a good enough excuse to be having an affair with a child.
Definitely not.
And even the line, maybe this was funny at the time to people, but the line about the smoking, can we talk about it?
Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
So first of all, Gabby is smoking. And again, let's add this to the list of things that were completely dropped because Gabby never smokes again.
Yeah.
She's taking a drag. He asks for a drag of the cigarette and she says, "You're too young for that." And it's meant to be a ha ha ha. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
She is making herself aware that this person is too young, and it's not even delivered as a realization moment for her. She's using it as like a, "You're too young to smoke," and then leaning in to kiss.
Yeah, she's in a seductive way, and it's like, ugh,
oh,
it's gross.
It's awful. But what I do like about this scene, and I wish we kept, is weirdly the smoking. I love the contrast of this woman who so cares about the outside and the superficial, doing something that is harming her on the inside. I think it's an interesting choice for her, but it doesn't matter because nobody else thought that.
We are now at Bree's home. It is dinner time. They are in the dining room because, of course, she has a very fancy formal dining room. And it's very quiet. There's not much chit-chat going on. It's a bit uncomfortable immediately. And then her kids start complaining about why can't they have, like, normal food. And Bree says, "There's nothing abnormal about basil puree." The kids make some suggestions or something. And Bree's like making excuses about why we can't have any of those, and mentions in passing that Rex, her husband, is allergic to onions. I wonder if that'll come back into play. I guess we'll find out shortly, probably. And then basically Bree's getting mad that no one is appreciative of her spending 3 hours cooking. Her son makes a very rude comment about like, "Well, no one asked you to cook for 3 hours. Da, 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 da." And Rex, her husband, could not care less about how disrespectful her kids are being. And I mean, we do get a sense that, you know, the kids have a lot of built up frustration towards their mother, but we don't know all of that yet. All we know is that they're being rude in this moment. Her husband's just like, "I don't care." Like, Bree literally asks him to say something and he's just like, "Pass the salt." Like, it's ugh.
It's difficult to watch this scene.
Yeah.
I think for many reasons. I'm going to add to my thesis, if you don't mind, my thesis of Bree is in a different genre with everybody else. So I have, as you know, a writing and theatre background. This is a play. Stay with me. This is a bit conspiracy theory.
Sure.
But it's set up so to look like a play from the audience perspective. We have the mum and dad on either side of the table. What would be natural is if Danielle and Andrew were on either side, but they're not. They're sat side by side and it's empty on the other side. And we get a spotlight, a genuine spotlight on the dish. And it is like an old Eugene O'Neill play family drama that they are in. They are depressed and they are sat there talking about essentially nothing and not able to connect with each other. It's so interesting. I do understand the children here as a fuss eater myself. But also, do any of us really appreciate our parents when we are young? I don't know.
No, probably not.
I also understand that Bree thinks she's loving her family by putting all of her love into the caring aspect, the 3 hours. But again, it's the first introduction to this idea that maybe those 3 hours could have been spent connecting with your children. Mm-hmm. There's a mention of another dish, if you don't mind, in Bree's cookbook. Andrew's eating ossobuco. Ossobuco alla Milanese is a specialty cuisine of cross-cut veal shanks braised with vegetables, white wine and broth. It is often garnished with gremolata and traditionally served with either risotto alla Milanese or polenta, depending on the regional variation. Would you have eaten that as a teenager?
I'd quite like it with polenta. I think I would have, but that's just because my mother is also in the cooking aspect of things can be quite similar.
Yes.
And so I did eat a lot of variety of dishes growing up, some of which were quite fancy. And so, well, not even fancy, but just like, you know, not basic. I personally would have, but I can understand why a lot of teens and children growing up might have been like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?"
I certainly would not have. You know I'm a fussy eater anyway, but definitely at that age, they are very normal children.
They are. So the children are Andrew and Danielle.
Yes.
They are both, probably about John's age. So it's like
Yes.
16, 15, 16. I think Danielle's meant to be a little bit younger.
Yes. And that's actually a really interesting observation that these characters are the same age as John the gardener.
Oh my God, yeah. And they don't look the same age.
They certainly do not. And also, I don't know if this is no shade to the actress playing Danielle, but is she wearing a wig? I don't know if it's been styled to look it is a classic teenage thing of you just not worked out what to do with your hair yet. And it's a detail that I really like because it's imperfect, unlike Bree's hair, which, as Rex later says, does not move. Also, Rex saying pass the salt. In the pilot script, it's worse.
Oh my God, what does he say?
He says, everybody just be quiet so I can eat this slop in peace. Which, I'm so glad they changed it.
Rex is already my least favourite of the husbands.
I was a bit more sympathetic to him on this watch for the scene that we're going to talk about later.
I think in the first episode, in isolation, he might not be my least favourite, but I just, knowing the show as a whole, he is definitely my least favourite.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. But this idea that we are presented, she's not appreciated in her own home, and her infatuation with being perfect is the thing that is stopping her having the perfect family.
It's almost like a cycle because she doesn't get that appreciation from home, so she puts more and more effort into the other things like gardening and stuff that she does get appreciated for by the neighbors and things, but by focusing so much on that, she's less appreciated at home by her family, and it's like an endless cycle that way, kind of.
Yes. It's a difficult watch. Yeah. Not as difficult as the next scene for me.
With Lynette at the supermarket?
Yeah, can you talk? I don't know if I can.
Okay. Lynette is at the supermarket trying to deal with her kids who are, as always, causing chaos. So the two twins run off alone. And then she bumps into an old co-worker from her corporate days who is the most passive-aggressive lady I've ever seen on television, rubbing her life into Lynette's face, like, don't you just love being a mom? And it's like you see her kids in the background like bang into some old lady with a trolley car. It's grim. And this scene actually comes back in the finale. Like there's a lot of mirroring between the pilot and the finale episode, and I very vividly remember they kind of almost recreate this whole interaction.
Yes.
It's just a perfect example of Lynette's life right now.
Can we talk about the fact that all of Lynette's scenes in the pilot are excruciating? What's awful is, so we've spoken a little bit about how Lynette dresses, but she's still wearing her corporate shirts, which is heartbreaking. We're seeing it the entire time. And I don't know if that's because she has no money for clothes or she's just clinging to this person that she used to be. It's completely devastating. And I think as an adult as well, we have all had a situation where we have ran into somebody while we're not at our best.
Yeah.
If you are looking incredible, you are not running into anybody that day. If you are hungover, if you're not wearing makeup and you usually do, if you're wearing an outfit that has a stain on it, that is when you will see everyone you've ever met.
Unfortunately, that is the way of the universe.
This woman is such a reminder of what her life could have been, that it's so devastating. And for her to have to lie and say that because she can't tell the truth of that motherhood is killing her. Oh, it's horrible.
Grim.
Speaking of grim.
I mean, well, we then have the scene we already talked about of Gabby and John post-hookup, but we've already discussed that. So let's skip ahead to late in the evening, not nighttime. We're in Susan's home. She's doing the dishes or something, and Julie is working on a school project. She's made this like Trojan horse model out of little ice lolly sticks. Susan has decided she's going to go and ask Mike out again. Is that what's happening? She goes over again.
Yes. So I have a surprise for you for this scene while we're talking about it. Do you remember earlier when we were speaking about fan theories and whatnot and the culture that this show had created?
Yeah.
There's one that I think you will be extremely interested in.
Okay, exciting. Let's hear it.
Julie is a vampire slayer. Here's the reasoning.
Go on.
The location for Wisteria Lane can be seen in the Buffy episode Hush.
Episode Hush. Yes, when the gentlemen are floating down the lane. I knew this.
Yes.
So, I do you know why I know this? From listening to the Buffy recap podcast.
And this very well, in an alternate timeline, Erin and Jakub are doing a Buffy rewatch podcast as well. So Julie is a vampire slayer, and she's actually been spending her time during the time jump and after fighting the vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness. That guy she brings home in season 5, actually her watcher. So,
There's a much older guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Bearing that in mind, I read this theory, didn't think anything else of it, and then could not stop laughing watching her with her chopsticks or wooden stakes.
Shut up.
So I just think we have to bear that in mind for the rest of our rewatch, that subconsciously, perhaps, Julie is a slayer.
Maybe we need a fan theory of the week segment.
Fan theory of the week, maybe. If there's, it's a hard one to beat though. It's a very, very.
Oh my god, that's incredible. Well, anyway, she's with her wooden stakes, she's making a Trojan horse model. When Susan goes over to again try and ask Mike out, it's late at night now. She's I can't remember what she brings over. She just goes and knocks on the door. Mike opens and she's again bumbling, trying to get the words out to ask him out. And then Edie, who's already inside, also comes to the doorway like, "Hi, Susan."
Hey there.
Susan immediately panics, immediately is flustered, doesn't know what to say, and panics and tells Mike, "Oh, I have a clog. You're a plumber. I need you to fix it."
What is that?
And Mike's like, "Oh, I can come right now." And obviously she has no clogs. So she's like, "Oh, no, you have company. Da, da, da." And then Edie looks at her knowing full well what's going on. And in the most evil little glare, "I don't mind."
There's so much to discuss in this.
I love it.
It's so good. Also, Edie's already lost at this point. Upon rewatching, you have that realization. Mike answers the door and says he's not got anything going on.
Oh, I never clocked that. And then he's immediately happy to just leave the
Yes.
situation with Edie to go be with Susan. Oh,
She's made too much. I looked this up. I think it's fruit salad. I think it's something like that.
yeah.
Her excuse for coming over. I don't think his heart is lying with Edie at this point.
Or the fruit salad, yeah. So then Susan runs home as Mike goes to get his tools and has to create some form of clog in her drain. So she's stuffing stuff down there, like a handful of peanut butter, hair she's pulled off of a hairbrush. It's pretty vile, not gonna lie. And then they're like, it's not working. What are we gonna do? And then the shot just pans down to a close-up of Julie's Trojan horse model. Bad mob.
Bad mom. And this is the first time that we're seeing evidence of Susan perhaps not putting Julie first.
Almost never put
Almost-
Julie first.
almost
Always
never.
What might I say? Yeah. And then we see Mike unclogging all of the wooden sticks from the drain, and there's like a little bit of flirtation, and that's the end of that scene.
Julie on the staircase is so good. So Mike is going, "Oh yeah, there's some chopsticks in here," and Susan's saying, "Oh yeah, I've told Julie not to play with that." And you could see Julie at the staircase just shaking her head furiously.
Yes, he gives such a scolding look, like it is very much a parental "I'm disappointed" look.
Yes, yeah, that's so true. That's such a good observation.
Okay, do you want to talk about the Onion Gate scene?
Family time, as I have written it down in my notes. Where they're at, my knowledge of American culture isn't great, but it's some kind of Chuck E. Cheese.
I wrote a Western grill type place.
Yeah, a kind of what's known as kind of a family entertainment restaurant where there's video games and there's things to do, but we don't really have them here
No,
in
not
Scotland.
really.
We've still not caught up to 2004 with that. And it's very much implied that Bree has yielded because of the last scene, and she is letting them, and it is very much letting them go to a place that she would normally not be caught dead in. And she's wearing the most atrocious pink outfit, Jakub. It's like a pink scarf with pink shirt with a bright pink puff pad over it. It's just so pink and perfect.
Mash it out. Although, can I just say that that's interesting, your take on it, because I read it as, wow, Bree has really compromised here. Whereas you're like, oh, she's letting them. And I took it a very different take, I think, on it. In the sense that I'm like, see, she's understanding, she's trying, she's putting effort in. That was my read.
Oh, maybe, yes. Interesting.
Interesting.
But she does say that she has to make something healthy next week. And in the next installment of Bree's cookbook I have right here, she is going to make chicken saltimbocca. The pronunciation of that is definitely off. I'm so sorry. Another Italian dish of thin slices of veal and ham flavored with sage, rolled together and sauteed in butter.
That sounds incredible.
That's so
I
much
am
veal.
available.
That is so much veal. That is the second recipe we've had in the pilot that is veal. But yes, with Rex uses this moment to say to Bree that he wants a divorce. And we see for the first time that Bree knows how to shut down her emotions and how she does this as a coping mechanism.
Oh, just to be clear as well, her kids are not at the table at this moment. They went to play video games.
Yes.
And Rex cites, I just can't live in this detergent commercial anymore. And that is a perfect encapsulation of their whole family situation that Bree is really pushing.
Again, that scene with the plate comes back to me because it's an example of this isn't real. And there is a degree of this is the realness that she's missing out on.
That's a really cool observation.
Thank you. It's my thesis. So we see Bree cope with this information by going to get Rex a salad.
Bree gets intercepted by Mrs. Huber here because she truly is everywhere. Even the wake, it's Mrs. Huber who comes to tell Lynette that her kids are in the pool and stuff. And she just seems to be in like every scene lurking.
She is the neighbor.
Neighbor.
She is everybody's neighbor. She's everywhere. In fact, this brings me to something later on. I'm not going to say it. I'm too excited. But she basically comes over to Yap. And bear in mind, Bree is also grieving one of her closest friends.
Yeah.
And Martha's all up in her business. Bree's trying to make this salad. This was perhaps not the week to ask for a divorce, Rex. Yeah, actually, I didn't think about this. One of Bree's best friends has just passed away. And that's when Rex decides to ask for a divorce.
Yeah.
It's a rough week for Bree.
That is wild.
So anyway, she makes the salad for Rex. She goes back over to him. He takes a bite out of it and is like, there's onions.
It's very chaotic. And then there is a hard cut to Zach, Mary Alice's son, waking up in the middle of the night. It's very jarring, the cut.
It does look a bit like Zach has foreseen this. It was foretold to Zach in a dream that there would be onion in the salad.
Everything up until this point in the episode was a dream.
Another fan theory.
So he wakes up to see Paul, his father, digging a hole at the bottom of his now drained pool. And we get Mary Alice, a voiceover again, saying that it was the sound of a family secret.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Paul, the actor who plays Paul, is doing a phenomenal job of just being suspicious. And that's his entire thing this episode. Who is this guy? What's his secret? It's really entertaining. It's a really great job that they've set this up. And then we get Lynette again. Lovely Lynette.
Yes, it's now 7 days post-funeral and life is back to normal.
Tom Scavo comes home.
Yes, Lynette's husband.
He comes home. I have so much to say about this. I do not think you're going to like.
I mean, I'm not a Tom fan, so go for it hard.
He comes home, and it is good that he has heard her phone call from earlier that she is kind of drowning and she wants him to come back. And he kind of comes in as a false hero to me. He comes in and gets all the credit for coming back when really he just wants to be having sex with her.
Yeah, immediately. You're like, kids, get outside.
Yes, he
Here's
does
a ball.
no parenting, but he gets to hand over a gift and look like the great guy. And he is trying to sleep with her while she has vomit on her. She had a conversation that makes me so uncomfortable about birth control, where she says that because of swelling, she's had to come off the pill, so he will have to use a condom. And Tom says, let's risk it.
Yeah. And then very rightly so, Lynette punches him.
Yes, it right in the throat. I do not condone domestic violence. However, that being said, in that moment, I would have punched him too, right in the throat. The fact that he comes in and is getting all of the benefits of his home life without any of the work is excruciating to watch. He has no idea, especially in the beginning, how much she has and continues to give up for him.
Yeah, I think in this episode, certainly he is by far... yeah, I think he comes across as the worst husband in this episode. I mean, I was thinking about Carlos, who doesn't really have anything positive going for him, but I think still, despite that, Tom seems like the worst husband.
I think the reason that he feels like the worst to me, because I agree with you, is because he's just not noticing. He's not evil. He just isn't caring enough to notice that his wife is broken. And he just can't be bothered putting on a condom. It's infuriating. You know, Tom, count your days, Tom. Count your days.
Cut to Bree and Rex in the hospital post-Onion reaction.
Can I tell you this is my quote of the week?
Absolutely. You do it. It is your quote of the week.
I can't believe you tried to kill me. Yes, well, I feel badly about that. So good. I mean, it's just everything you need to know about Bree.
Yeah,
in
so
that.
quintessentially Bree. Just not really an emotional response at all. Just, oh my God, incredible.
Oh, and I feel for Bree so much in this scene, but I don't know if I could live with Bree as she is in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think though, like in this first episode, all of the housewives are somewhat a caricature and stereotype. But you only really get to know them as the show goes on. So it is easy to kind of understand Rex when you've only seen this caricature of Bree. But I think when you look back on it after getting to know Bree, I feel a lot less sympathetic towards Rex.
Would you say when we meet all the women, they are desperate?
So, so Rex is complaining again about Bree's perfectionism. This is when she makes the comment of being sick of the bizarre way her hair never moves. I mean, he's got a point there. It literally doesn't move for 3 seasons. Bree clearly does not have good communication skills.
No.
She just immediately removes herself from the situation. She goes to the bathroom to, replace the water in the vase with the flowers or something, and she has a little cry to herself. And it's truly like she can't show any emotion or weakness to anyone else at all, because then when she comes out of the bathroom, the music is suddenly upbeat. She's got a perfect smile on her face again. She's holding these flowers, and it's like she's never cried a day in her life. And it's like, wow, she really has to put this mask on. That is her only way to cope.
It's the first time we see a chip in the armor. And it's not when he asks for a divorce. And it's not when he's demeaning her. It's when he's saying, where was this woman that I fell in love with? And I think that's so telling. And if you don't mind, I would like to speak a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
Because I think they kind of retcon this a little bit later on. Because he says, where's the woman I fell in love with who used to burn the toast and drink milk out of the carton and laugh? I need her, not this cold, perfect thing. Which I think is beautifully written. We spoke earlier about how in the pilot script, you can't side with him in any way because of how horrible he is to her. But here, this feels really tender and like he's kind of crying out for the relationship to be repaired. But later on, when we find out a little bit more about Bree's background, I don't know if she is the woman that would have ever burnt the toast and drank.
Can we consider this abandoned plotline?
That is what I was hoping you would say.
Although, do you know what's funny? I actually remember you talking about this retcon at the time.
Really?
I do. You see a flashback to Bree's childhood in the final season, but I think it's very plausible to believe that when she goes off to college or university and she meets Rex and she's at that kind of age, that she does have a moment of more freedom, which we just don't see.
Yes, it's just a really interesting change because it does kind of change the question from what made her change from this relaxed woman to this cold, perfect thing, much more of a question of, will this woman ever let anybody in? And let the armor come away.
Yeah.
And I do love Bree. I do think that with her problems with communication and the extremes of her perfection, there is no room for whimsy and goofiness and joy and mistakes. And I think crucially, we connect with people over mistakes. And that is Bree's problem.
So now we see Gabby leaving for the business event with Carlos. And she looks impeccable. She has the stunning pink dress on. Oh, I lose my mind every time.
My notes are genuinely 1 million out of 10.
Yes, 1 million out of 10. That is so accurate. Carlos is complaining about the gardening work that's been done again. He's saying that the grass wasn't even mowed today because they've been busy fucking. And, Gabby brushes it aside. It's like, oh, it's dark. You just can't see, blah, blah, blah. So then they get to the party. Carlos immediately goes off to talk to the business people and do his business stuff. And then Gabby takes that opportunity to sneak away from the party. She tips one of the bartenders to keep Carlos drinking so he doesn't know she's away. And she runs home and to the most upbeat music ever. She runs out onto her lawn with the lawnmower, this huge lawnmower. Eva Longoria's a tiny lady.
She looks
She's
so little.
tiny. And in her heels, in this gown, she is mowing the lawn at night. And it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And then it cuts back to her returning to the party and gets back to it. It is so funny.
I think that as an image and Lynette in the pool both stand out to me so much from this episode as the main images of the show. I think
Show or just this episode?
Oh, this episode, sorry. Let's slow down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I think a lot of the time, I remember seeing a lot of kudos being given to these actresses at the time for their performances and for being good comedic actresses with their dialogue. But I think they don't get enough credit for their physical comedy here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The juxtaposition of this woman who has clearly never mown a lawn in her entire life, saying gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. And again, the little detail of Carlos begs her to go to this business thing with him, even though it's got a predator there.
Yeah, and then he doesn't even notice that she's away doing it for so long.
It doesn't even matter that she wasn't there. She was just a trophy. She was just an object for him to bring. And so it makes her a bit more sympathetic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Especially when it's a scene where we're not seeing her interact with a child.
Yes, yes. I think any scene without John the gardener, to use his full title, his biblically accurate title, is a scene where we kind of almost forget that Gabby has done this horrific thing. We're more thinking about who she is as a person.
Yeah. And then before the next scene, there's a quick shot of Carlos the next morning going to work and being confused as he notices the grass is in fact cut. He's like, whatever. And then you see Gabby in the background like...
Then we have... Yes. I'm so glad we're talking about this again. So I have a headcanon that is not been confirmed, but we then re-enter a store, which Martha Hooper is also in.
Because she's everywhere.
In my head, this is a different store.
Oh, in my head, this is the same supermarket.
In my head, it's so funny to me that she's going to multiple stores to run into all of these houses. Like, you know, Bree's shopping at the equivalent of, I guess, the UK equivalent of like the Waitrose, and Susan's at the Asda, and Martha's at the mall, so she can get.
I'm telling you, she's a lurker.
I think perhaps even Martha Hooper is a spirit that Julie is tracking to try and slay. Because she's
the big bad of the Julie Buffy season.
She's the big bad monster of the week, Martha Hooper. Sorry, you were doing such a good job of recapping all these scenes.
No, please. This is the recap I'm here for.
So Martha Hooper is there. Susan is there. They are both shopping. First of all, Martha Hooper flags that she doesn't feel very well because she had some bad macaroni and cheese at the wake.
Which was a week ago.
What was in the macaroni and cheese? And she says that she's busy tonight babysitting Edie Britt's son.
This doesn't come back for a long time.
I was going to say, this sets up the most important character of the series, Edie Britt's son. Nope. Just kidding. We don't even hear about him again until season 3.
Something like that. My goodness.
Edie does not feel like the most present parent.
Martha specifically says she's babysitting because Edie will have like a gentleman friend coming by.
Yes, and it's implied that Susan is panicking and quaking in her boots that it is Mike.
Yes.
This is interesting to me because does Susan think that Edie is so magical that Mike, after sleeping with her, will be hooked? Or is she seeing it that once Edie has slept with Mike, it's over, they can never have anything romantic because she can't be with anybody that Mike has been with? Sorry. I keep getting everybody was trying to mix up. Hey, you know what I mean.
I don't think Susan's thinking about it that deeply. I think she just reacts very emotionally to everything and is more instinctual than that. And I think it feels like a me versus her because they really very quickly set up a sort of rivalry here.
Yes, and much like every TV triangle that's worth its shtick, or film triangle, one is blonde and one is brunette.
Of course. And then Susan abandons her shopping cart. She is out the store.
Yes.
Middle of the aisle, that shopping cart just left.
I'm glad that she abandons her cart because if she went to the checkout till, do you know who works at the checkout till? Martha Hooper. Who's checking out her groceries? Martha Hooper. So the next scene, I believe this is where Susan decides to enter Edie's home under the premise with a cute little beaker, which we'll come back to.
Measuring cup, that's how it's referred to in the show.
Oh, yes. A cute little beaker that everybody has, but that's fine. She's trying to do the neighborly premise of, oh, I need to borrow sugar, as if she would ask Edie for sugar, as if Edie has sugar.
Also, what's her plan here? Does she just want to confirm if Mike's there? Is she hoping to disrupt their meeting enough that Mike will just leave?
Yes.
It's not clear.
So she enters Edie's home, and Edie has the highest candle budget that anyone has ever had. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Wall-to-wall candles, a health and safety nightmare.
Truly, truly.
And we see her pick up Edie's underwear. And this is going to be such a little thing, but it's very important to me. The lingerie in this show is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
You might not notice this, but it's truly outstanding.
Me not clocking women's lingerie.
I know. But for lack of a better term, the lingerie is fire.
I see what you did there.
And I know what happens next is technically Susan's fault, but I do think that Edie has to be held responsible for some health and safety breaches here.
Sure, you can give her some percentage of the blame here, but Susan entered this house unannounced of someone she is not friendly with.
No.
Started snooping, and then, yeah, please continue.
So Susan gets upset when she sees underwear and hears Edie having sex in the other room. And she starts tucking into some chocolates. And she accidentally begins a fire. And I would say, just not make enough of an attempt to put the fire out.
No, she definitely makes it worse.
Yeah.
Also, just because you mentioned we hear Edie having sex, and that's so funny because when I was watching this and writing my notes, I wrote, Susan assumes Edie is having sex, and then as I typed that, you just hear Edie moaning in the background subtly, and I'm like, oh no, confirmed.
Yes. Susan goes, do you know what? We've had a good run. I've set her house on fire. This might kill her. I'm out of here. And drops the measuring jug.
She does, and there's a very obvious shot of that.
I hope that doesn't come back later.
A little bit later, the fire brigade's there. All of the neighbors are out seeing what all the commotion is about. You know, Edie's upset. She's in the little fire blanket because her house is burning down to the ground.
And the housewives make some comments about her that are, I would say, not particularly sympathetic. They're basically like, oh, Edie's strong.
She'll be fine. She'll bounce back.
Her home is burning to the ground in front of your eyes. It's so bad.
They're all watching the house burn down, and then Mike shows up and it's like, oh, what was going on? And Susan is elated at the realization that it was not Mike who was visiting Edie. That shot is so funny because they are flirting in the romantic music, and it's literally a shot of them with directly behind them Edie's burning down house. It's so funny.
Susan says, yeah, everything's fine now. And Edie's house is burning to the ground. It's so cruel. And then, he gets a phone call?
Yeah, it goes home.
And this is where we get our first acting lesson given to him, I assume, by Paul Young, of suspicious man is suspicious.
Yes, very 101 suspicious behavior.
Yes. What could his secret be? Why is he there? Stay tuned.
Yeah, he takes like a gun out of his pocket and puts it down. He says something like, oh, I'm getting close to whoever's on the phone, and dun dun dun, everyone's got secrets.
Everyone's got secrets. And yeah, again, he takes the gun. It's like, oh, a gun, even though we've kind of had guns normalized at this point. From Bree being a member of the NRA.
I wonder if they know each other from NRA meetings.
Are they at the NRA meetings? Let's discuss.
Oh my goodness.
And finally, well deserved, the women decide to have a toast to Mary Alice. The women have been taking her belongings, packing them away with loving care, presumably. And after raising their toast, a letter falls out of Mary Alice's pocket. It is a very famous letter. It's very, very
Yeah,
popular.
I didn't even need to wait for it to come up on screen to type out what it said in my
yeah.
notes. I was like, this is burned into my brain.
What I find interesting is the letter itself to Mary Alice Young is written in the most beautiful calligraphy. The inside note is written, it's like a ransom note. And the letter says, would you like to do it?
I know what you did. It makes me sick. I'm going to tell.
And then Mary Alice says, I'm so sorry, girls. I didn't want you to get tangled up in this, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And Susan gets a very, it's cheesy, but I love it. Mary Alice, what did you do? And that is episode 1
Yep.
of Desperate Housewives. we've had an incredible pilot episode. We do have some awards to give out. And the first one is for worst neighbor. And I thought we were going to disagree on this, but now I'm starting to think we might win.
Okay, do you want to go first?
So the obvious answer would be Martha for taking the blender. She's kind of my honorable mention, if you will, because she's a nightmare neighbor to have, but she's not evil. The worst neighbor, from a logical standpoint, by far is Susan.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. She's constantly coming over. Her daughter's kicking her ball over my fence. Annoying. She asks Mike after meeting him once for free labor with the plumbing thing.
She calls it on purpose.
Yeah, so for context, I work as a videographer. And if I met a new neighbor, even if there was flirty vibes, and the next interaction was them coming over and being like, oh, hey, I've got a birthday tomorrow. I need someone to edit this footage together for me. Can you do it? Get out of here. Get out of here. And obviously, the biggest neighbor no-no is she burns her neighbor's house
food
down.
poisoning. Yes, she burns Edie's house to the ground, but she does also give Martha food poisoning for over a week, and who knows how many other people in the street.
That's true. She could have wiped out all of Wisteria Lane.
That's why it was so quiet and nobody noticed Gabby having an affair with John Gardner because
All in the hospital. That was worst neighbor of the episode. What would you like to do next? We've already done favorite line.
We've got quote of the week. I would say Wisteria Lane fashion police.
Okay.
But I think we're going to be in agreement on this.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, Gabby's business event dress, incredible. Lynette's wake dress, as we've already discussed, incredible. Also, big fan of Mike's leather jacket in the last scene.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Which was very important for him to give him, when they gave that mysterious vibe when he had the gun, it adds to the kind of, oh, he's got a bit of a bad boy side to him.
Yeah.
There's a leather jacket.
How are we supposed to know he's a bad boy if he's not wearing a leather jacket?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I also really like Gabby's wake dress. It's really simple. She just looks phenomenal and everything. Eva Longoria.
Did you have any fashion outs?
Bree's outfit to the weird Chuck E. Cheese Frankie and Betty.
We're talking about.
It's so un-Bree to me, which is great because it shows that Bree completely evolves throughout the series, but it feels so un-Bree to me in the moment. Lynette and all her work shirts are not the most... I don't love it. Some other excellent bras in this pilot when Gabby is with John the Gardener on the table.
I only had one fashion out, and this will be a consistent fashion out for this character for me because he wears the same thing every time he's on screen.
Sure.
And that is Zach, who forever wears a tucked in polo shirt and some like tan trousers.
Yeah.
And I just think, I mean, it suits his character because he's an awkward person and it looks awkward. But I mean, obviously it does a good job of costuming because I feel awkward just looking at what he's wearing. I hate it.
Yes.
Hate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait for every week you to be like...
Gabby looked great, Zach looked shit. That's my fashion, please.
And then finally, this was your idea of a segment, which I really love, which was you on Tagas.
So I actually didn't even write anything for that because I kind of just said that after a few drinks. I messaged that to you.
I thought it was basically who's the nicest or like who's the best husband or most attractive husband or the husband we would most like to have.
So let's talk about the husband.
Let's give them a little bit of a moment. Let's start by saying extremely insufferable this episode, fair to say.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whilst I find the actor who plays Carlos to be a handsome, attractive man,
Of course you do.
I could not be less attracted to him in this pilot.
That's fair. That's exactly how I feel about Tom.
Ooh. Ooh. And Mike is very sweet and endearing at the beginning of this. I prefer him in a leather jacket. But again, he's very much a blank canvas. I don't think that's bad writing. I think it's intended to be that way because we really...
Yeah, he's meant to be a bit mysterious.
Yes, we don't know what to expect him going forward. But it does mean that it's very easy to like Mike because we have no other men to really root for.
We can kind of project whatever we want to aspire to in a husband onto him.
Yes. And I would say, I mean, we hate Rex. It's going to be... I'm trying to be a bit of a devil's advocate for Rex, and I can't because the devil doesn't need an advocate, and neither does Rex.
He doesn't deserve one either.
He doesn't deserve one. Oh, and the only other thing that I had to say before we say goodbye is by the end of this episode, the death count of Wisteria Lane is 1, and the affair count is 1. And that number will change.
Potentially exponentially.
Yes. He's been Jakub Tanzi.
And she's been Erin McGee.
Oh, I hate that. I love
Let's
it.
never do that again.
Let's never do it.
You know, we're working at the kinks for the broadcast pilot. We'll change it.
Yes.
We're going to rewrite this whole thing for the broadcast pilot. Who knows if we will ever record beyond this.
I hope we do. I've had so
I
much
really hope we do.
It was so much fun.
And so with that manifestation in mind,
Yes.
we will see you in the next episode.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out our Instagram for visuals, behind the scenes content, and more.
You can find us by searching for MAWDYD, that's MEWDYD.
Or just search for Mary Alice, What Did You Do?
This podcast is brought to you entirely by us, Erin McGee.
And Jakub Tanzi. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Join us next time for another episode of Mary Alice,
What Did You Do?